I never thought I'd be writing something like this. My name is Jake, and I'm about to spill the beans on the worst chapter of my life, a chapter that I thought was going to be a fairy tale. My wife, Amanda, and I had been together for nearly 8 years. On paper, we were the perfect couple. Friends envied us. We had a nice house, a couple of dogs, and a promising future ahead. Well, that was until I discovered Amanda was cheating on me with her yoga instructor, Ethan. It all started with subtle changes in her behavior. At first, I attributed it to work stress. Amanda is a nurse and she often worked long shifts. The late nights became more frequent and the excuses piled up. I had to stay late for a meeting, or the patients were a handful today. But there was a different vibe in the air. Her phone buzzed and dinged more than usual, and whenever I walked into the room, she would quickly hide her screen. I remember feeling a knot in my stomach, but I brushed it off, convincing myself I was being paranoid. One evening, I decided to take a different route home from work. I wanted to stop by her favorite bakery and surprise her with some pastries. When I got home, I found her car in the driveway, but she wasn't in the living room. I called out her name, but there was no response. I walked down the hallway and saw the bedroom door slightly ajar. I could hear muffled voices inside. My heart raced as I approached, and I could make out Amanda's laughter mingling with another voice, a voice that sent chills down my spine. I pushed the door open, and there she was, sitting on the edge of our bed, her hair tousled, wearing one of my old t-shirts. And right next to her was Ethan, that damn yoga instructor, all smug and casual as if he belonged there. I stood frozen for a moment, trying to process what I was seeing. My mind went blank and the world around me faded into a low hum. "Jake!" Amanda exclaimed, shooting up from the bed. Her eyes were wide, filled with shock, not guilt, not remorse, but shock. "This isn't what it looks like," she stammered, her tone defensive rather than apologetic. "Oh, really? Because it looks exactly like you're cheating on me with your yoga instructor." I shot back, my voice shaky with anger. I could feel my heart thumping in my chest, and I could almost hear the sound of my world crashing down around me. Ethan, quick to react, stood up and put his hands up as if pleading for peace. "Hey man, I didn't mean for this to happen. It's not what you think." It was almost laughable how both of them were trying to downplay the situation, like they hadn't just shattered my entire life. I could feel my blood boiling. "Not what I think. You're in my house, in my bed with my wife." I yelled, struggling to keep my emotions in check. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. Amanda jumped in, trying to smooth things over. She started throwing out excuses, how they'd gotten close during yoga classes, how it just happened, how she had feelings for him that she didn't plan for. I felt like the ground beneath me was slipping, and I had to fight to stay upright. "Feelings? You have feelings?" I scoffed, sarcasm dripping from my words. "What about the vows we took? You said you'd never betray me." She broke into tears, which only fueled my anger. "This is not how I wanted you to find out," she wailed, but all I could focus on was the fact that this wasn't just a mistake, it was a calculated betrayal. In that moment, I realized that I was standing at the crossroads of my life, and there I was, faced with the ugly truth. I felt like the world had been pulled out from under me, leaving me in shock as I processed the betrayal. I didn't know what to do next. Would I fight for my marriage or walk away? The choice lingered in the air, heavy with uncertainty. As I stormed out of the room, I felt the weight of my emotions pressing down on me, hurt, anger, and a growing determination. I couldn't stay weak. I needed to reclaim my life. In that moment of despair, I made a decision. I would not let her betrayal define me. I would become stronger, mentally and physically, and I would ensure that she saw it. I didn't know how or when, but I was going to become the best version of myself. Amanda could stay weak if she chose, but I was done being the fool in this story. After the confrontation, the days blurred into a haze of anger and confusion. I moved out of our shared bedroom and took refuge in the spare room, a small space that felt foreign and cold. I spent hours tossing and turning, replaying the moment I caught them over and over in my mind. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. The only thing that kept me grounded was the thought of revenge. I was determined to change myself in a way that Amanda would never expect. The first step was to channel my anger into something productive. I had been neglecting my health for years, focusing on my job as a graphic designer and spending evenings on the couch watching TV. I decided it was time to hit the gym. I needed to take control of my life. So I woke up early the next morning, laced up my sneakers, and drove to the local gym. It was intimidating at first. The smell of sweat mixed with rubber was overwhelming, and the sound of weights clanging together echoed in my ears, but I pushed through. I hired a personal trainer, a no-nonsense guy named Mike who had a way of motivating me. He pushed me harder than I ever thought I could go, challenging me to lift weights I couldn't imagine. The pain was intense, but as the days turned into weeks, I began to feel stronger, physically and mentally. Each drop of sweat was a reminder that I was reclaiming my body, my self-esteem, and my life. I could feel the anger transform into determination. At the same time, I began to take stock of my emotional state. I sought out therapy, which helped me process my feelings. The therapist, a kind woman named Laura, encouraged me to express my pain rather than suppress it. She guided me through exercises that helped me articulate my feelings about Amanda's betrayal. I learned to recognize my worth and understand that I was not defined by her actions. I started to grasp that I needed to forgive myself for any perceived shortcomings in our relationship. While I was focused on self-improvement, Amanda was doing what she could to salvage our marriage. She tried reaching out, sending me texts, messages asking to talk and expressing her regrets. "I miss you," she would say. "We can work through this." But every message felt like a dagger to my heart. I couldn't bring myself to respond. I wasn't ready to hear her excuses. I was too busy building a new version of myself, one that didn't include her. As I got stronger, I also found myself exploring new things I had always put off. I enrolled in a martial arts class, something I had always wanted to try but never had the courage to pursue. There was something about punching a bag and practicing self-defense that empowered me. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. The confidence I gained in the dojo started spilling into other areas of my life. But as I transformed, so did my perspective on Amanda. I realized I had been holding onto anger and resentment, which were toxic anchors weighing me down. I thought about her and Ethan constantly, picturing them in my mind as I punched that bag. I imagined the two of them laughing together, sharing intimate moments. I had to let that go. That's when I decided I would confront her again, but this time it would be on my terms. Weeks passed, and as the physical changes in my body became apparent, I started to feel a sense of pride. My clothes fit differently, and my reflection in the mirror showed a stronger, more determined version of myself. I wanted Amanda to see that I was not the same guy she had betrayed. I was evolving, and I wanted her to know it. I finally agreed to meet Amanda one Friday evening. We chose a coffee shop, a neutral ground where I wouldn't feel cornered. Walking in, I could see her sitting at a table, nervously tapping her fingers on her cup. She looked different, more stressed, more fragile. My heart didn't soften, though. I had come too far to let old feelings sway me. "Jake," she said, standing up as I approached, "I'm so glad you came." I nodded, feeling a surge of confidence. "Let's just cut to the chase, Amanda. I'm not here to discuss whether we can fix this. I need you to understand that I've changed. I'm not the man you cheated on." Her eyes widened, and for the first time I saw genuine concern etched across her face. "What do you mean?" she asked, confusion mixing with fear. "I mean I'm taking control of my life. I've been working out, I've been improving myself mentally, and I'm not going to let your betrayal define me. I'm not the weak man you thought I was." Her expression softened for a moment, but the defensiveness returned. "You think you can just become a different person and that will fix everything. You can't just erase what happened." "Maybe not," I replied, my tone steady, "but I can choose what happens next. You wanted to be with Ethan, that's your choice, but I'm done being your second choice." The conversation continued, and for the first time I felt empowered to speak my truth. I told her about the gym, the martial arts classes, and the personal growth I was undertaking. As I spoke, I could see her realizing that I wasn't going to crumble. I was rising up. Amanda tried to justify her actions, expressing how she felt neglected. But I had come to understand that her excuses were just that, excuses. I didn't want to dwell on the past anymore. I was ready to embrace my future, whether that included her or not. I left the coffee shop feeling lighter, the weight of her betrayal beginning to dissipate. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure. I was ready to fight for my happiness, whatever that might look like. After my meeting with Amanda, the initial relief I felt quickly morphed into uncertainty. I had gained confidence, but I was still reeling from the emotional fallout. Would I ever be able to trust her again? The idea of rebuilding our relationship lingered in my mind, but as the days went on, I found myself leaning more towards the idea of moving on rather than trying to piece together a broken marriage. I threw myself deeper into my self-improvement journey. My routine became a source of comfort and empowerment. I would wake up early, hit the gym, attend my martial arts class, and then spend the evenings working on my freelance projects. Each day I felt more and more like the man I wanted to be, free from the chains of Amanda's betrayal. But even as I focused on my own growth, there was a nagging voice in my head that urged me to confront the reality of my situation with Amanda. She would text me occasionally, apologies mixed with attempts to remain friends. "I miss you," she would say, or "let's talk about us." I never responded immediately. In fact, sometimes I wouldn't respond at all. But curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself reading her messages more often than I should have. One evening, after an intense workout, I opened my phone and saw a message from Amanda. "Can we meet up again? I really need to talk to you." It was hard to resist the urge to engage, but I was also wary of being drawn back into a cycle of heartache. Despite my reservations, I agreed to meet her again. This time, we chose a park. The sun was setting and the golden hour painted everything in a warm glow. I arrived early, sitting on a bench and trying to gather my thoughts. I could hear the distant laughter of children and the chirping of birds, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling inside me. When Amanda arrived, she was wearing a simple sundress and her hair flowed in the gentle breeze. She looked beautiful, but I reminded myself that beauty wasn't enough to erase the pain she had caused. As we sat down, the tension was palpable. I could see the apprehension in her eyes, and I sensed that she was trying to gauge my mood. "Jake, I've been doing a lot of thinking," she began, her voice shaky. "About us, about everything that happened. I've realized how much I messed up." I nodded, crossing my arms, and I want to make it right. "I know I hurt you, but I've been talking to someone about my feelings, about what led to my choice. I want to take responsibility for my actions." "Is that so?" I replied, trying to maintain a calm demeanor. "You think talking to someone can fix this?" "I think it's a start," she insisted, leaning closer as if trying to connect with me. "I'm not asking for us to go back to how things were, but I want a chance to show you that I can be better. I can be the wife you deserve." Her words felt rehearsed, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were just a way to ease her guilt. "Amanda, you had your chance. You made your choice when you decided to cheat. I can't just forget that." Tears filled her eyes and she looked genuinely remorseful. "I know, and I don't expect you to forget, but I miss you, Jake. I miss what we had. I thought I could find something different with Ethan, but I was wrong. You were always my home." Her plea tugged at something deep inside me, but I knew I had to stay strong. "You can't just decide you want me back when it suits you," I replied firmly. "I'm not a consolation prize. You made your bed, and now you have to lie in it." The conversation spiraled into an emotional back and forth, with Amanda trying to explain her feelings and her regrets. But no matter how many times she apologized, I couldn't shake the image of her with Ethan. It was a painful reminder that she had crossed a line that I couldn't overlook. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt the weight of the moment settling in. "Look," I said finally, "I appreciate you coming here and being honest, but I'm not ready to consider a reconciliation. I need to focus on moving forward." She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I understand, but I hope you can see how much I regret what I did. I hope one day you can forgive me." I stood up, feeling a mix of sadness and empowerment. "Maybe one day, Amanda, but not today. I have to take care of myself first. That's all I can do right now." As I walked away, I felt a strange sense of closure. It was bittersweet, knowing that I was cutting ties with someone I once loved deeply. But in that moment, I realized that my journey of self-improvement was just as important as any relationship I had. I was ready to let go of the past and embrace the future, no matter how uncertain it felt. In the days that followed, I continued to focus on myself. I pushed harder in my workouts, tried new recipes in the kitchen, and even started meditating to help clear my mind. Through it all, I felt a sense of clarity. I was becoming the person I wanted to be, and I had no room for anyone who would hold me back. But there was still a part of me that wondered whether Amanda would change. Would she really work on herself? Or was she just trying to manipulate me into giving her another chance? Those questions haunted me, but I resolved not to dwell on them. I had my own life to lead, and I was determined to make it count. As the weeks rolled on, I found myself diving deeper into my routine. I was at the gym every day, pushing my limits, and I continued attending martial arts classes with the same fervor. Each drop of sweat felt like it was washing away the remnants of my past life with Amanda. I started to meet new people and build a network of friends at the gym and martial arts dojos. It felt good to connect with others who were also focused on self-improvement, and I realized that I thrived in the company of those who were motivated and driven. Every interaction with Amanda became less frequent. I would respond to her texts occasionally, just acknowledging her messages but keeping things surface level. I had trained myself not to delve into emotional conversations. I didn't want to slip back into a pattern that had already caused me so much pain. The distance was necessary for my healing. One day, I was at the gym, finishing up my workout when I noticed a woman across the room. She was practicing kickboxing and had a determined look on her face. Her name was Mia, and she was a new instructor who had just started leading classes. I watched her from a distance, taken in by her intensity and the way she commanded the room. There was something about her that piqued my interest, but I was still hesitant to let anyone in after everything with Amanda. After a few days of attending Mia's classes, I mustered the courage to talk to her. We struck up a conversation after one of her sessions, and I was surprised at how easy it felt. We talked about our favorite workout routines and quickly discovered we shared a love for martial arts. Mia was approachable, and I found myself laughing more than I had in a long time. I felt an undeniable connection, unlike anything I had experienced with Amanda. As we spent more time together, I discovered that Mia had her own story of overcoming challenges. She had been through a tough breakup herself and had channeled her energy into fitness and self-discovery. Listening to her talk about her journey made me realize that I wasn't alone in my struggle. We would often meet up after classes to grab smoothies and talk about our lives. It was refreshing to connect with someone who wasn't embroiled in drama or heartbreak. But as I began to open up to Mia, the specter of Amanda still loomed in the back of my mind. I was scared to fall for someone new, fearing that I might get hurt again. Every time I thought about progressing with Mia, doubts crept in. Would I ever be able to love again? Would I always be haunted by Amanda's betrayal? One night, as I lay in bed, I received a surprise message from Amanda. "Can we meet? I really need to talk about something important." My heart raced, and I felt a mix of anxiety and curiosity. Despite my best efforts to distance myself, I couldn't ignore the pull to know what she wanted. I agreed to meet her at a cafe, and as I walked in, my stomach churned. I hadn't seen her in weeks, and the thought of facing her again brought back a whirlwind of emotions. Amanda was seated at a corner table, and she looked different, more polished, yet still vulnerable. I noticed she wore a new dress and had her hair styled differently. It was clear she was trying to make an impression. "Hey," she said softly as I sat down. "Thanks for meeting me." "Let's get to it, Amanda. What's so important?" I replied, trying to sound composed. "I've been doing a lot of reflecting," she began, her voice trembling. "I realize it's been selfish of me to reach out and expect you to forgive me. I've been seeing a therapist, and I want to genuinely work on myself. I want to take responsibility for my actions, and I don't expect you to take me back, but I hope you can understand." And I prompted, my heart racing with anticipation. "I think I really messed up," she continued. "I've been focusing on what I want, but I need to understand that relationships are about more than just feelings. I'm ready to change, Jake. I want to be a better person, not just for you, but for myself too. It was a lot to take in. Part of me wanted to hear her out, but another part of me was still angry, still hurt. You expect me to believe this after everything? I couldn't hide my skepticism. You think you can just say a few words and everything will be fine? No, I know it's not that simple, she replied, tears glistening in her eyes. But I want to show you that I can be different. I'm ready to put in the work, even if that means you never take me back. As I looked into her eyes, I saw a flicker of sincerity, a glimpse of the woman I once loved. But I also felt the walls I had built around myself, protecting my heart from further pain. You need to understand, Amanda, I've changed too. I'm not that guy who would just take you back. I've been focusing on my own growth, and I won't let your betrayal define me, I said firmly. I get that, she said, her voice steady. I'm not asking for an immediate answer. I just wanted you to know where I'm at. I want you to see that I'm serious about changing. As we parted ways, I felt a mix of emotions. I appreciated her honesty, but I wasn't ready to let my guard down. I headed home, my mind swirling with thoughts of what Amanda had said. I felt strong, but I also felt vulnerable. This situation was complicated, and I needed to figure out what I truly wanted. That night as I lay in bed, I found myself thinking about Mia. We had shared so many laughs, so many moments of connection. I wondered if I was ready to explore that further, or if I would always be held back by the shadows of my past. The next day, I made a decision. I would reach out to Mia. I couldn't let my fear of being hurt again stop me from pursuing a potentially meaningful connection. It was time to take a leap of faith. I wanted to explore this new chapter in my life, not just for the thrill of it, but to genuinely find happiness. The journey I had begun was about more than just physical strength. It was about emotional resilience and the courage to embrace new beginnings. I was ready to see where it would take me. I reached out to Mia that day, a text that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Hey, I had a great time in class yesterday. Would you like to grab coffee this weekend? I sent it off, my heart racing as I hit send. It felt like a new beginning, an opportunity to step away from the shadows of the past and into something fresh. When she replied almost immediately with a resounding yes, I'd love to, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. We decided to meet at a cozy cafe known for its artisanal coffee and relaxed atmosphere. The time leading up to our meeting flew by, with each passing hour amplifying my anticipation. When Saturday rolled around, I dressed with purpose, wanting to make a good impression without overdoing it. As I arrived, I spotted Mia seated by the window, a smile lighting up her face when she saw me. It was contagious. We exchanged pleasantries, and as we settled in with our drinks, the conversation flowed effortlessly. I learned more about her life, her passions, and how she had found strength in fitness after her own heartbreak. She spoke with such passion, her eyes sparkling as she recounted her journey. I found myself opening up about my struggles too, about the pain of betrayal and how it had pushed me towards self-improvement. It felt good to share my story with someone who truly listened. Jake, I think it's amazing how you've turned this experience into something positive. So many people just wallow in their pain, but you're using it as a catalyst for growth, Mia said, her admiration apparent. I felt a surge of pride at her words. It was validation that I was on the right path. As we continued to talk, I couldn't help but feel a connection blossoming. Her laughter was infectious, and every time our eyes locked, I felt a spark. I was drawn to her positivity and resilience in a way that was completely different from my past with Amanda. It was refreshing to be with someone who was genuinely happy and had a zest for life. Over the next few weeks, Mia and I continued to see each other. Our relationship blossomed rapidly. We went hiking, tried out new restaurants, and spent hours talking about everything under the sun. With each date, I found myself letting go of the hurt that had clung to me for so long. Mia had a way of making me feel free, like I could be my true self without fear of judgment or betrayal. But even amidst the joy, Amanda's lingering presence cast a shadow. I had to confront her again, and I knew it. Our previous discussion replayed in my mind. She was working on herself, yes, but what did that mean for me? I found myself torn between my new life with Mia and the unresolved feelings toward Amanda. One evening, after a particularly great day with Mia, I decided it was time to meet Amanda again. She deserved to know that I was moving on, and I needed closure for myself. I wanted to affirm that I was choosing my happiness and letting go of the past. We agreed to meet at the same cafe where we had previously talked. As I waited for her, I felt a blend of nerves and anticipation. When she walked in, she looked composed but nervous. It was evident that she was still grappling with her feelings. "Hey, Jake," she greeted me, her voice steady as we sat down. "Hi, Amanda. Thanks for meeting me," I said, taking a deep breath. "I want to start by saying I appreciate the changes you're seeking to make. It takes a lot of courage to confront your mistakes." "Thank you," she replied softly, her eyes searching mine. "I've been reflecting on everything. I understand why you've moved on, and I can't blame you for wanting to live your life." "I'm glad you understand," I continued. "I've been seeing someone new, Mia. She's been incredible, and I've found happiness again." At that moment, I watched as Amanda's face fell. The realization hit her hard, and I felt a mix of sympathy and strength. "I didn't want to hurt you, Jake. I realize now how much I took you for granted. You deserved so much more." I held her gaze, feeling a sense of closure wash over me. "You're right. I did deserve more, and I've realized that I can't keep looking back. I've fought hard to reclaim my life, and I'm not going to allow your past mistakes to hold me back. I wish you well in your journey, but I can't be part of it anymore." Tears welled in her eyes, and I felt a flicker of sadness for what we had lost, but the strength I had found was undeniable. "Thank you for understanding," she whispered, her voice breaking. As I walked away from that meeting, something shifted within me. I felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted. I was finally free of the past. I had closed that chapter, and I was ready to embrace the new one that was unfolding with Mia. In the weeks that followed, my relationship with Mia deepened. We laughed together, supported each other, and shared our dreams. With her, I felt a sense of joy and fulfillment that I hadn't experienced in years, and for the first time, I began to visualize a future that didn't include the pain of my past. Yet, there was still something I needed to do. I wanted to ensure that I didn't just return to old patterns and that I continued to grow as an individual. I started journaling regularly, reflecting on my experiences and what I had learned through it all. I wanted to keep moving forward to ensure that I never found myself in the same situation again. Mia and I planned a weekend getaway to the mountains, and I was excited about the opportunity to connect on a deeper level. It felt like a fresh start, a way to solidify what we were building together. I was ready to let love in again, and this time I would approach it with openness and honesty. I had faced darkness, navigated betrayal, and emerged on the other side stronger than ever. I learned that self-improvement isn't just about physical strength. It's about emotional resilience and the courage to embrace new possibilities. I was ready for whatever lay ahead, knowing that I had the tools to navigate it, no matter how challenging it might be. The weekend getaway to the mountains was everything I had hoped for and more. Mia and I drove up together, the car filled with laughter and the occasional sing-along to our favorite tunes. As the scenery transformed from cityscape to breathtaking mountain views, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. This trip wasn't just about escaping. It was about solidifying what we had built together and marking a new chapter in my life. We arrived at a cozy cabin nestled among towering pines. The air was crisp and refreshing, and the smell of pine and earth filled my lungs. As we unpacked, I felt a surge of excitement. This was our space for the weekend, a sanctuary from the world. That evening, we made dinner together, laughing over the stove and playfully arguing over how to season the pasta. It felt effortless, the way we interacted, natural and unguarded. Over dinner, we talked about our dreams for the future, our aspirations, and the little moments that made life beautiful. Mia shared her passion for teaching martial arts and how she wanted to inspire others to find their strength. I opened up about my own journey, the challenges I had faced, and how I was determined to never lose sight of my worth again. After dinner, we sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets as the sun dipped below the horizon. The stars began to twinkle overhead, and I couldn't help but feel grateful for the direction my life had taken. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of hope, a feeling I had thought was lost forever. Mia, I began, my heart racing as I considered the right words to say. I never thought I'd be in a place like this again. After everything that happened with Amanda, I was scared to let anyone in. But you've shown me that I can be happy again. You've helped me heal in ways I didn't know I needed. She turned to face me, her eyes glimmering in the soft light. I'm really glad to hear that. I've been through my share of pain too, and I understand how hard it can be to open up again. But I believe that we're stronger together, and I'm excited for what lies ahead. As we talked, I felt a deep connection growing between us. The moment was charged with emotion, and I knew I wanted to take a step forward. I want to make this work, Mia. I want us to explore this connection fully, I said, my voice steady and sincere. I want that too, Jake, she replied, a smile breaking across her face. I want to build something meaningful with you. The weekend passed in a blur of adventures, hiking trails, cozy fireside chats, and cooking meals together. Each moment reinforced what I had come to recognize. I was no longer the same person I had been with Amanda. I was different now, stronger and more aware of my needs and desires. As we sat by a fire one night, watching the flames dance, I took a leap of faith. Mia, there's something I want to ask you, I said, feeling the warmth of the fire seep into my bones. Would you consider being exclusive? I think we have something special, and I'd love to explore that together. Her eyes brightened, and I could see the joy in her expression. Yes, I'd love that, she said, her voice filled with excitement. I think we have a beautiful journey ahead of us. With that agreement, a weight lifted off my shoulders. I had taken a step into the unknown, and it felt liberating. We spent the remainder of the trip embracing our newfound commitment, creating memories that would anchor us as we returned to our daily lives. When we finally headed back home, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I was ready to embrace this chapter with Mia, but I also recognized the importance of continuing my own personal growth. I maintained my gym routine, my martial arts classes, and my journaling, each a crucial part of my path to self-discovery. Looking back on the past year, I realized that it had been a journey of transformation. I had faced betrayal and heartbreak, but I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. I had learned valuable lessons about love, trust, and the importance of self-care. In the end, I understood that relationships require effort, trust, and mutual respect. I had come to appreciate my worth and recognize that true love isn't built on the ruins of past mistakes. It's something that grows from understanding, support, and a shared vision for the future. As I embraced this new life with Mia, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the journey that had led me here. I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that I had the strength to overcome them. And as I looked at Mia, I couldn't help but smile at the thought of all the adventures we would embark on together. I had chosen to rise above the pain, and in doing so, I had finally found my way back to happiness.